I'm going to try to clean up this Teak bedroom set that dining room set that I picked up right after Christmas. There's a look like paint, maybe a little bit of floor wax or something on the bottom of these legs. This is an extra chair. I got 6 chairs. This is actually the 7th chair that the person who originally bought it probably ordered. It's a cute little chair, you know. It's actually a very good idea, you know. You have 6 people and you get another person coming to dinner you didn't expect. So instead of having to buy an expensive chair, you just bought this. This was probably 50 bucks or something when the lady first bought it. The products I like to use, now this is the big debate, is Teak oil. The brand I used last time, 2 years ago, smelled so bad and it took a long time to dry. I can't remember the brand, but I remember if I had to buy it again, I wouldn't buy it. I used this brand based on a recommendation from a guy out of Boston. He has a restoration, and he has a beautiful blog. I'm going to post it. And he really gets into teak, chairs. He does Danish weaving. He does a lot of weaving. And he recommended this brand of teak oil. There's 3 or 4 other brands out there. You probably have to go with what you like. He did say stay away from stuff with varnish. When it came to cleaning, he said unless you really had something where it was just a disaster as far as clean. I mean, sometimes you'll get teak that's just filthy. He said all you really have to do is use some double-aught steel wool and this, and that should be more than adequate to clean it up. What you don't want to do is scrub it. Some people use turpentine or they'll use Murphy's oil soap. I don't see it for this teak. There's another guy in Arizona that does really good YouTube videos. He uses turpentine before it. I don't really think I need that, and I'm not going to. So we'll just use this with the steel wool on this small piece, looking for any discolorations in case this doesn't work. I don't anticipate a problem. And then the gloves, I use these gloves. These are great. I get them at Harbor Freight, $5 for a box. Almost any time I get around chemicals, I like to use 2 sets of gloves just to protect yourself, because your skin can absorb things. Even though I don't plan on getting this on my hands, you never know. You're gonna make a mistake and whatever. Plus a new brush, that would probably make it a little easier and cleaner. The whole thing is, if you can, keep your work area clean of dust. Now it's a pretty, you know, beautiful day here in Orlando. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. Very little wind. I swept out the driveway as best as I could. I probably should mop it again, but I can't find my mop wherever that disappeared. So if you can keep this whole work area clean. Now the guy in Boston says this stuff dries pretty quickly. The stuff I had before, it took a long time to dry. And maybe because that wood hadn't been touched in 30 years, I don't know. But between the long drying time and the smell, that killed me wanting to use that product again. So we'll try this. And then some, I got some cotton rags that are probably, I mean, I don't know what else you want to use, but hopefully they don't leave any lint. So I couldn't find lint-free rags, but I think this will work more than adequate. And I like to save these things. My wife uses it. So when I do painting or I do, I'm trying to get into furniture restoration, I like to put the stuff in here and then use it on whatever I'm doing. This shouldn't have any reaction with the plastic. And then I'll use these things up and then, you know, wash them out, let them dry out in the sun for a couple days, and then throw them in the recycling thing. It seems like a convenient way to keep reusing things instead of just keep throwing things out. I grew up in the generation that you save things because you might use it for this type of purpose. And of course, safety glasses. This doesn't have a very obnoxious smell to it at all. That other stuff, God, I'll never forget that. Ooh. This is $15 locally, which probably is the same price on Amazon. Maybe Amazon's a little cheaper. But, you know, it goes to the local guy at the little hardware store, maybe to keep him employed. It's pretty straightforward. We're not doing anything radical here. Just be careful around your upholstery. You don't want to get this. Oh, it does have a much more pleasant smell. It reminds me of working with linseed oil. You know, that has a very pleasant smell as far as a finishing agent. Now the guy in Boston, he recommends just let the stuff soak in for a bit and then lightly go over it with steel wool. I always save old cardboard boxes, and I mean, once I get a lot of them, I start throwing them out, but because I know I'm going to toss it, you know, all this stuff is flammable, so you don't want to keep it, you know, put it on something like this. Some people use old towels, but then they don't throw away the towels. So this stuff is going to sit around. It's like a potential fire in your garage. You don't want to keep anything in your garage that might spontaneous combustion or something. Some of this stuff is very, very dangerous. You got to be very careful with it. Some thinners, some strippers. In Florida, it gets very hot. Some people just throw rags in a corner. I was in the Navy and we always had problems with fire, spontaneous combustion, stuff like that. Yeah, much easier to work with. I don't think it probably doesn't have the same, obviously the same ingredients. I bet you they don't use a lot of petroleum distillates. That's the right word. This is probably the worst spot. I don't know if you can see that. Looks like paint somebody got on it. You figure something sat around there. Probably when they moved it around, whatever. Already looks like it's drying pretty quickly. Just put it on. I don't want to use a lot of abrasive on this. You got to put a little elbow grease to get this paint off. As long as you rub with the grain, you shouldn't put any scratches in it. And then just go up. Just removing the dirt, really. The guy in Boston had a good point. He said people confuse patina with dirt. He said teak's a natural wood, very natural, hard fiber wood. You want to see the grain. He said a lot of people think the idea that you can't restore something, you want that dirt and call it patina. And he had a good point. He had some good examples about that. And so there is a point where you might have to take the finish completely down, something that's just been maybe left out in the sun forever, or there is no finish, or it's just excessively dirty. This is coming right off. Paint, I think it is, and some dirt coming right off. I really don't want my upholstery to absorb anything. I got 6 chairs and a table. Should take a couple days, but you know it's the holidays, what else you got to do? You know, the scratches, I think I might have to use some really fine. Oh yeah, it's coming right off. Now I'm not pressing really hard on most of it. It's coming right off. Dirt and paint. Down by the bottom of the legs is probably the worst, and then up top, just some accumulated dirt. I figure stuff sits around and picks up dirt everywhere. Careful on that. Really, really no smell. It's great. It's one thing I hate about working with paints and varnish and all that. That smell will just drive you up a wall. Plus it's bad for you. I got a respirator over there that I use when I do any. I just finished a desk that had to use shellac, and I mean I love the desk. It came out great, really did. But to me, the thing about doing furniture, I'm not really good at finishing. I just don't understand that process, the different choices and the shellacs and varnish. Of course, teak, you don't want to use any of that stuff. You're just going to use teak oil, that's that. Now you can use tung oil. The guy in Arizona said use that when you, I think the guy in Boston too, if you take down some of the finish, use tung oil with teak oil, it kind of restores the finish. You don't want a glossy finish. You want a kind of a dull shine. Some people want a glossy finish, I don't. I've been looking at the library trying to find a book on Danish furniture, how to restore it. I haven't been able to find one. I think I'll have to, you know, internet's a great source, but you know, just because they find it on the internet doesn't mean it's really what you should do. You can go by results. I mean, what is the results these guys achieve? And if that's the look you want. And it's such a hard wood, I would think you'd be hard pressed to really damage it. This leg is the one that had the most paint and dirt. It does have a nice grain, really deep luster to it. Paint just coming off too well. Kind of make your strokes even, going with the grain no matter what you do. Especially down at the bottom of the floor. Touched it. Some people use orange oil. One guy really said he loves orange oil on his teak. He said that really makes it look so beautiful. I might try that. That seems to get most of it. Now I'm gonna wipe it down. I love Amazon. They always have tons of boxes around for your various projects. You don't want to use a cloth because that cloth is going to stay around. You want to use it, put it out in the sun, let it dry out, and you're done. There's still some paint there. Cleans up really nice. There's some taking that dirt right off. It's nice. It's not real filthy or anything, but you figure probably 20 years dirt. You know, Grandma's not going to sit down and do this. I bet you know, I got this thing. It was in the guy's garage, so it's probably been sitting there for a couple of years. You know, the dad I think really liked it, but nobody else did. He helped me load it. He was really, really careful loading it. He was really, you know, putting it out the door. Must have been his mother's. That's kind of nice when you buy old furniture. You have a little bit of provenance, you know, somebody's mom or grandmother. And you can appreciate the furniture a little bit more. Instead of, you know, dealers a lot of times, they have no clue. They buy this stuff from wholesalers or auctions or estate sales. They don't know what it is, where that came from. It's nice if you can find a piece of furniture and the guy will say, yeah, it's my grandmother's. He'll talk to you about it. That's cleaned up really nice. For the first go around, see how this kind of, that was stupid, but this came out, that's the leg that had all the paint on it. Hopefully you can see that. It's a little bit darker and richer. than it was. It was dried out a bit. So now this still has paint on this side. Hit it again. That's coming right off. I asked my kids if they want to come out and help me. They're 8 and 10. I think maybe that might be a little bit young. They're not interested. It's too bad. I had them help me do a desk last year, and they did a little bit, but they were good for like 15 minutes. And then that was that. You don't want them around the chemicals anyway, but I kind of want them to learn value, money. Buy something used. Don't always look new. Don't get conditioned to buy new. Buy something that might hold its value better than new. You know, new Ethan Allen chair, for example, versus buying something like this. Buying a new dining room set versus buying this. Of course, if you're married, one of the two spouses doesn't want to do that. But when you first get married, I think you should always do that, unless you're pretty well off, maybe you do a lot of entertaining. You know, you're into the cha-cha or whatever. Just a little bit more. A couple spots. I'm not looking for perfection, but you know, it's going to bug you if you see, you get it all done, it looks great, you're going to look down and see that little white spot, you'll be like, ah! You can tell where the teak oil hit it. It's kind of bringing the grain really out, really nice. This is a good hobby for a lot of people, I think. You know, Craigslist makes it nice. You can get a nice old piece of furniture. You just do something crazy if you want. Or I think that the shabby chic thing is destroying more furniture. I've seen some really beautiful mid-century pieces that were probably walnut and people painted them. They don't realize the beauty of some of that stuff, and it sits on Craigslist. Nobody buys it. You know, you got to be careful. You know, it's an education thing. People, if you get into any sort of hobby, you should do a little reading. Shabby chic is really popular, especially among women. And some of women are phenomenally good at it. They take an ugly piece of furniture and just make it beautiful. Something that you would just look at and say, gee, who would ever buy that? The first time, let alone now. And they do really, really good work. The paint's not cheap. The chalk paint isn't cheap. So you really got to know what you're doing. Plus read the blogs and stuff. This, I think, is a little easier hobby for a lot of people. You know, if you get one or two pieces, you devote, you know, a couple weekends. Take your time. I wouldn't just run out and buy a piece of teak furniture. There's a lot of stuff that's made in the last 10 years that's really junk. And people are going to say, hey, it's Danish modern, it's not, you know. Or it's, hey, it's antique and it's not. Not that you care, maybe you just want it looks good to you. Beautiful day though, it's not windy. It's nice and clean. This leg is almost done, except for small white paint spots. I bet you somebody used this as a stool and they were painting something. They're touching something up, probably a couple drops of paint. Yeah. Nice. Great. That's the first, almost all of it cleaned up except for one little spot. Yeah, that would bug you. Every time you're like, oh, wow, I missed that. Here we go. It's not windy, so I'm going to put this. Okay. Nice and clean. Okay, one down, 6 to go.